Okay, well, here we go on this dreary, cold day, and don't even worry about what state it's in. Just shit weather. That's all you need to know about. Again, like, subscribe, hit a button, do something. You know the drill. This is going to be an episode about completely avoidable problems. We dealt with this a little bit in the Oh Shit podcast a while ago, but I feel like I would be doing anyone listening to this episode or any of the episodes a disservice if I didn't stress the point of how important. Oh my God, I don't have coffee. Son of a bitch. I'll be right back. Okay, crisis averted. Coffee's piping hot. Started a new blend. Again, I'm not gonna advertise for them for free, but those of you who know me know what it is. It was on sale, which is very unusual for this brand, and it had a Santa Claus on the box. So I guess I'm a couple months behind on this one, getting this one, but it's still good, still fresh, still tastes incredible. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it's in the top three. I just went down there and made a cup of coffee, and I got to thinking how ironic it is that because you're listening to this episode, you don't know if I was gone for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days. That's some deep shit to wrap your head around, the whole timey-wimey thing. But back to the podcast. Man, I don't know where the hell I was going with that. See, no coffee yet, or at least not for an hour or two. I do feel like I really need to stress the mindset of going into any kind of an emergency situation. We don't have the luxury of taking you through boot camp for 3 months or special forces training for 6 months to 2 years or anything like that. So you're going to go into this, or I should say you will go into an oh shit situation, or what do all the other tactical false prophets say? SHTF. I stopped saying that because I'm tired of all these idiots out there trying to sell you bulletproof coffee mugs. That's a neat idea, though. Well, never mind. My cohort knows what I'm talking about, a bulletproof coffee mug. I think we both agree that's a good one. And my buddy out in the mid-states knows what I'm talking about with a bulletproof coffee mug. I'm thinking about it more like relating to the Chronicles of Riddick, where he kills a guy with a teacup, but that's another conversation. The mindset is extremely important. The mindset is what's going to keep you alive when it's so cold you can't feel your feet anymore. The mindset is what's going to keep you alive when you're so thirsty your lips are cracking and bleeding. And the mindset is what's going to keep you alive when you're looking at your foot thinking, I could cut that son of a bitch off and eat it right now. Your mindset is what will keep you moving, it will keep you going, and it will keep you alive. When your mind fails, you fail. It's that simple. You need to get your shit in gear. And like I talked about, I don't know how many podcasts ago, you guys know better than me, when the shit happens, it's going to happen fast. We might get a gradual buildup, but being the audacious, arrogant, pompous sons of bitches that we are, we're not going to read the warning signs. And in contrast, that prepper podcast from way up north, the Great White North, he tells us the world's going to shit every week. So we've been desensitized by these tactical false prophets that are trying to tell you got to buy all their shit just to stay alive when nothing's even happened just yet. Yes, you could be preparing. Yes, they do have good gear. No, you don't need a lot of the gear they're selling. So we're going to talk about the mindset. The mindset is the most important weapon you have in your arsenal. And anybody that wants to say different, I'm calling bullshit, and they're a liar. The mindset is your most important weapon. Start embracing this topic and start thinking about the things we're talking about. Go back and listen to previous podcasts. Go back and listen to the warrior mindset and the survival mindset. This is the shit that's going to keep you alive. Not everybody can do the warrior mindset, and that's not. Hold on, coffee time. Not everyone's up to the task of the warrior mindset. It takes a special kind of person to be able to look down a barrel and pull a trigger, or push a knife into a piece of meat or something like that. Not everybody possesses that ability. And, you all know the Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth. So you guys can't do it are probably going to be the ones living out the longest. So good on you. But what I'm getting at is short term, getting through the crisis, you got to have the mindset. And good news, everyone, the damn cat just walked into the room. But I need you to also understand this podcast, we're still not talking about pew-pews. I'm happy to talk about them. I'm happy to learn from people that know more than me. There's a lot of people out there that know a hell of a lot more about pew-pews than I do. I know how to use it. I know how to engage what needs to be engaged with it. I know how to let's say, end a situation very quickly if I have to, but that doesn't mean I know everything about them. I know the ballistics of the weapons of my choice. I don't know the ballistics of all the other weapons out there. There might be better weapons out there than what I have. I don't know, but I don't want to talk about them right now. Like I said, we're building on the Oh Shit podcast from a few weeks ago. This does not only apply to prepping, but it involves everyday activities and situations that can be avoided. If you practice avoiding oh shits enough, it will become automatic and carry over into everything you do, hopefully. There is a certain expectation, especially in survival and preparedness circles, that things go wrong in a very, what do we want to call it, cinematic way. Nope. Tripping over your cat and falling on the knife you just sharpened is every bit as deadly as getting shot in the head. No drama, just dead because you did not take the extra step to sheath your pig sticker before you started walking. Anybody that knows anything about knives knows if you're not involved in hand-to-hand combat, that knife stays in the sheath. You don't get it out, and you don't walk with it out. That's a movie thing. That's not real life. So I will again say I am much more likely to trip over my damn cat after I got done sharpening the knife than somebody shooting me. It's that simple. This is where you got to get your mind at. The warrior mindset is going to put you in a situation where before you get up, you look at the survival mindset is going to get your mind in the position where you go to get up and you're looking at that knife in the sheath and you go, nope, knife goes in the sheath, then we get up. That's the mindset. That's the survival mindset. As stupid as it is, I know you're not building a shelter out in the woods with sticks and chicken bones, but it's part of survival, because if you do that out in the field, when there is an oh shit going on and you fall on your knife because you were too stupid or too lazy to sheathe the knife before you moved, now you got a situation on your hands. Now, if you had clothing on when you did it, you're going to have an infection. When that clothing goes into the wound, I don't care if you just took it out of the washing machine, it's going to cause an infection. You need to think survival. Again, that cinematic situation, it's not very likely. You look at the prepper fantasy. The big prepper fantasy as follows. The sky darkens, the power grid collapses with a dramatic hum. Somewhere, a transformer explodes in the distance for emotional emphasis. A man in a flannel shirt quietly nods to himself because he has been waiting for this moment his entire life. Yeah, bullshit. In reality, most problems begin with something far less inspiring. Like I said, your dumbass just fell on your dumb knife. Let's start another scenario and continue to listen as this scenario is going to unfold. It's truly a comedy of errors. I did not mean to get all Shakespearean on you. It just happened that way, but it truly is a comedy of errors. And it's going to take a little while to go through the whole thing, but I'm trying to stress why getting lazy and missing a step, or being that guy that says, no, it's not going to happen, or I don't have to do that now, I'll do it later. This is the shit that's going to catch up with you out in the field in the middle of an oh shit situation. It's why the military and the special forces and everybody trains so hard for muscle memory. You don't even think before you get up with the knife. You know to put that knife in the sheath before you get up. You don't think, to not have your finger on the trigger when you're holding a weapon. You know not to have your finger on the trigger. This is all survival mindset. And yeah, you're probably not going to shoot yourself if you have a long gun and you have your finger on the trigger, but you're probably going to blow the back of the head off of the guy you're sitting next to, and, it's just not worth it. Let's go with a simple thing that happens to a lot of people almost every day, especially my fiance, not me, but my fiance. You forgot to charge your phone before setting out for whatever you were going to do. You just didn't charge your phone, okay? It's that simple. That's the origin story. No soundtrack, no cinema, no slow motion. Just a battery icon quietly slipping into the red while you confidently ignore it like it's more of a suggestion than a warning. This episode and this concept are built on a simple idea. Most survival situations don't start as emergencies. They become emergencies because of small, completely reasonable decisions that stack together. What seems to be completely reasonable decisions that stack together like a poorly planned tower of consequences. It's more simply put, nothing went wrong until everything did. So we're going with that phone not being charged. The normal day. This is where your confidence lives. The normal day. It is important to begin with the baseline again. The completely normal day. Because nothing teaches preparedness quite like realizing how unprepared you are during a routine errand and you did not expect the laws of error enough to prepare for it. The scene is set. It's a Tuesday, not an important Tuesday, not a life-changing decisions Tuesday, just a standard issue weekday that exists primarily to be gotten through and nothing else. You're heading out for a quick trip. You know, you grab your keys and your phone. You might be going for groceries, maybe a hardware store run. Maybe I just need one more thing, which is always historically inaccurate. Perhaps you're running out for chocolate, milk, and donuts because you're stoned out of your mind. It doesn't matter. You grab your phone, you grab your keys, you're heading out the door. You check by the way, the chocolate milk and donuts is a law enforcement reference. If you don't get it, it's fine. It's not going to ruin your day if you don't. You check the essentials. Wallet, yes. Keys, yes. Phone, technically, yes. Your battery's only at 18%, which is spiritually a lie. The 18% is not 18% anymore. It's kind of like when your gas tank goes down to a quarter of a tank. Gas always goes quicker from a quarter tank down than it does from a full tank. Same thing with the phone battery. You briefly consider grabbing a phone charger for in your car, but you don't. I mean, let's be honest, those donuts aren't going to buy themselves. You got to get out there. Because optimism is a powerful force, and also it's your optimism is going to see. There's a difference between optimism and confidence. Optimism is built on hope. Confidence is built on trial and error. So optimism is a powerful force, and also significantly lighter and less work than preparedness. Optimism is going to screw you. Oh, it's going to screw you over. So we're moving through the day. We're grabbed phone, keys, got in the car, started to pull out. First small failure, barely even worth noticing. The problem is always small enough to ignore. That's what makes it effective. Let's say it's a road closure, just a road closure, nothing dramatic, just a sign, some cones, a vague sense that whoever planned this assumed you had infinite time and emotional resilience. So you reroute, no big deal, except now you're in an unfamiliar area. Yeah, your phone's down to 14%. Traffic is developing personality. Your traffic, people are flipping each other off because traffic's slowing down. They got to be places. Traffic definitely has a personality at this point, but it's still manageable. It's still normal. Still absolutely something you could recover from if this was the only issue. Well, coffee time. Holy shit, that's good coffee. The cascade begins. This is where cascade failure sets in. Starts. It starts to layer, not a collapse, not a fail catastrophically. Just starts to accumulate. You look at your phone and you're down to 9%. You decide to use a GPS just for a second, which is the technological equivalent of saying, I'll just have one cookie. No such thing. GPS is running. Screen brightness is at maximum because you're outside and the sun exists, so you're going to have the screen cranked, right? Background apps are doing their things you never approved because God knows nobody ever checks to see what background apps are running and what you can and can't shut down. It's the only thing I like better about an Android than an iPhone. You have a lot more control over that. And you just suddenly notice, holy shit, my battery's dropped to 6%. At this point, you are no longer using your phone. you're negotiating with it, trying to squeeze a little more life out of it, telling your phone if you just stay on for 5 more minutes, blah, blah, blah. You're actually negotiating with an inanimate object at this point. So now you hit the moment you realize this is now a situation. There's a very specific moment in any minor crisis where your brain shifts from this is fine to this is now a situation. It's subtle. Usually happens when your phone hits about 3%. You realize you don't actually know where you are. You can consider turning off the screen like it's a life support system. It's not. It's just a screen. It's not going to kill you. Now you're done screwed up. You start making decisions not based on logic, but on hope management. You're not thinking clearly. You're hoping things work, not thinking, what can I do to make things work? You stop checking directions on your phone to save battery, which is a bold strategy considering directions were the only thing keeping you oriented. It's getting gross. Now you're hitting the secondary failure because, one is never enough. You got to have more than one. We're going to introduce a second, completely unrelated issue. Let's say you're low on gas. You see where I'm going with this? What I'm going over right now is a completely realistic situation. This is not something that's, Peter Pan bullshit. This is a real situation that could happen to anybody. So let's say you're low on gas. Not pull over immediately, but low. Low enough that you notice it, you think about it, you decide it's future. It's a future use problem, not current use problem. Unfortunately, future you has arrived and present, and you left them very little bit to work with. You've left them very little to work with. You're basically on fumes. Your phone battery's pretty much dead. Probably the start amperage of turning on your phone and the screen coming up and rebooting is going to be enough to take away that last 3%. This is your situation now. You have a dying, or let's just say dead phone. Roads are completely unfamiliar. You've never seen this shit. A fuel station that has transitioned from fine, or you're in a fuel situation that has transitioned from fine to overly concerning. Next is a reality check, where honesty shows up uninvited. This is the part where we pause the scenario to talk about what's actually happening, because nothing here is extreme. No disasters, no collapse, no survival fantasies. Oh my God, what the hell is wrong with me today? Let's do that last. Where was I? No disasters, no collapse, no survival fantasy scenarios. Here's what we got. Poor phone battery discipline. What the hell is going on with my words are hard. Here's what we have. Poor phone battery discipline. No backup navigation plans. Absolutely no fuel awareness and no redundancy. In other words, a completely normal day executed slightly carelessly has turned into a oh shit situation. This is where the dry humor rewrites itself. At no point did anything dramatic occur. The situation simply became less convenient until it required actual thought, which is not part of the original plan. So what would have helped? We're going through, what would have helped going all the way back to kindergarten, maybe not eating so much glue. But what would have helped, and these are very basic things, not complicated ones, not expensive ones, just reasonable ones. You keep a phone charging cord in a damn car. Come on. I mean, let's go, Magellan. You can't always go by mental directions. You're going to depend on a phone. You're going to depend on a GPS. I would rather depend on my right shoe bursting into flames, but most people depend on that GPS like it's their lifeblood, their life source. You put the phone charger in the car. It's not going to take up that much room. It's a 3-foot piece of cable. How much room could it possibly take up? The change in your glove compartment takes up more room than that damn cable. And you have to accept that the battery strength is not going to improve with optimism. It's not. It never does. It never will. It never has. So let's talk about some basic redundancy that could have helped this situation. Knowing your general area without a GPS. Most people in the military, I believe some law enforcement, definitely ambulance drivers, we know north, south, east, and west without pulling out a compass. We just do. I don't know. Maybe it's just from force of habit of knowing one direction and following it everywhere, taking it with us everywhere we go? I don't know, but we know north, south, east, and west. Most civilians do not. You need to have knowledge of that. If nothing else, knowledge of north, south, east, and west. You have to have a rough mental map in your head. You have to know where there's rivers where you're probably going to need a bridge to cross, which means you're going to be driving even further to find a bridge. And if you're low on gas, you don't want to go that way. This is one of those times where it might be better to just sit and wait for someone to come by. You have to understand major routes, how to get to a major route the quickest way possible. Because chances are you're going to find a gas station on a major route, right after you pull off of an exit, a lot quicker than out in the middle of bumfuck Egypt where, directions are given by turn it left at the dead cow, go straight until you hit the red barn that's falling down. You're not going to find a gas station out there. You're going to find a gas station off a major route. You need to know fuel awareness. This is something that not many people I know practice, and I can't stress it enough. Half a tank of gas is not half full. It's half empty. That's not being pessimistic. That's being realistic. A quarter tank is not a suggestion. It's a time to act. I'll get it later is not a plan. If this thought has entered your mind, you're already screwed. You need to have situational awareness. Notice changes early. When you see the area you're in going from stores and commercial buildings to just houses to, like I said, a dead cow laying along the side of the road, that's a really bad time to figure out you don't know where you are, especially with low on gas. And there might not even be a phone signal there if you have phone battery, so keep that in mind. Adjust problems before they stack up. Stacking up problems is just it's like a math problem where you take problem 1 plus problem 2 plus problem 3 equals crisis. And God, you gotta avoid relying on a single point of failure. You need redundancy. The next time scenario, this is where you pretend what you've learned, or that you've learned anything. Let's run the exact same scenario, but with minor improvements. Same Tuesday, same errand, but this time the phone is fully charged, charger's in the car, fuel is above half, you glance at traffic before leaving, the road closure still happens. But hey, check it out. You reroute calmly. GPS is not a countdown timer at this point. Fuel is not a part of the overall conversation. The situation remains uneventful. It remains uneventful because you were prepared, okay? Which ironically is the goal. You need to be prepared. You need to learn. You need to learn from your mistakes or learn from this mistake, this comedy of error. Why small preparedness matters more than big gear, okay? And please listen to this. There's a tendency to focus on large, dramatic preparedness. Emergency kits, jump starter unit, knot cables, jumper cables, fix a flat, water, simple tools, a blanket, fire extinguisher, and you get the idea. If there's no room in the cabin in your car, take the stuff out of your trunk that's been taking up all the space and eating at you to drop off at Goodwill and put it out for the trash. This will open up plenty of room. You know who you are. Tactical gear. Yep, I always have tactical gear in the truck. I could start a war in a third world country at any given time or place with what I have in my truck. Long-term survival plans, which they start very simple, okay? Your first 2 steps in long-term survival plans. And this doesn't cost any money. This doesn't take much effort. Your first 2 rules in long-term survival plans, especially if you're lost out in the middle of anywhere, or out in the middle of nowhere. I knew what I meant. First rule, don't be a dick, okay? You walk up to someone and start asking them for directions like they owe you those directions. I personally would direct you the opposite way you need to go. The second most important rule, don't die. Be prepared, okay? You get past those first 2, you're going to be okay. I think all the problems that led up to the last situation where we were saying, oh shit, running out of gas, dead phone, don't know where we are, dead cow still looking at us from the side of the road. These were all things that would have been solved by having a charging device, basic awareness, small positive habits, and definitely a can of ravioli, because a can of ravioli can fix almost anything. The reality is, the most useful piece of survival gear is usually the one you didn't think was worth worrying about. Mindset. That's your survival gear. Your mindset will tell you to take a phone charger. Your mindset will tell you to check your phone. And if your phone's low, even if you think there's a phone charger in your car, maybe take another one with just in case. Mindset. All the problems I just mentioned in that scenario could have been fixed with the right mindset. Would have never happened with the right mindset. And even if one of them would have happened, only one of them, the other ones would have covered it enough probably to get you out of a sticky situation if they weren't going to oh shit. Humans are excellent at ignoring low-level risks. We just brush them under the carpet and pretend like they never happened. We prioritize convenience over everything. It's why we buy frozen dinners. That's why we buy, ravioli in a can. That's why we buy Keurig pods instead of coffee grounds, because we prioritize convenience. We assume things will work. The optimists out there, you just assume things will work because, gosh darn it, it's a good day, the sun's out, and everything's going to be great. This all works until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, the failure feels sudden enough that even though it was built slowly. I don't know how to make this any simpler than to say you have to get into the mindset where you're taking the extra step. And yes, it takes more work. And yes, it expends more energy. And yes, it might slow you down. But you have to start getting it into your mind, taking that extra step, doing what you have to make the situation safe or get you from point A to point B without a big oh shit. And yes, this is a ridiculous scenario. Probably isn't going to happen anytime soon. But everything that happened in that scenario is a perfect example of how things can fall apart in a real emergency. Say you go out on you go out looking for food or something like that. You guys are, sheltering out in the woods because of civil unrest or something like that. And you grab a battery without checking the radio. You get out there, you break your leg. You didn't tell anybody where you were going. You go out there, you break your leg trying to climb a rock like you're, Joe Rock Climber. You fall, you break your leg. You pick up the radio, you turn it on, nothing. Why? Because you didn't check the battery. Something you should be getting into. The other one I gave you is a real problem. The knife. You fall on your knife out in the middle of nowhere. You got a problem. What are the chances anybody out in the middle of nowhere is going to have antibiotics on them? What are the chances that anybody out in the middle of nowhere is going to hear you screaming because you fell on the knife, it pierced your kidney and your liver, and you can't scream as a result of that? So it's all little things that add up to your survival, that add up to you making it one more day. There's something inherently funny about the things that went wrong in the situation I presented. Not because they're dramatic, not because they're predictable. Every step made sense in isolation. Together they formed a problem, though. No single decision caused the issue. It was the team effort of all the oh shits. Remember, if it has tits, tires, or wires, you're going to be screwed by it eventually. So plan for it. And yes, I know that's going to get me in trouble with some people, but that's a very, very, very common saying in the military. If it has tits, tires, or wires, you will be screwed eventually. So plan for it. Conclusion. Here's the conclusion. Preparedness without paranoia. The goal is to turn every Tuesday into a tactical exercise. Man, that sounded smarter in my head when I thought it, but now that I said it, that doesn't make any sense. The idea is to reduce friction, avoid unnecessary problems, and handle small issues before they grow, because most of the time, nothing goes wrong until it does. And when it does, it's rarely because the world ended. It's because you didn't charge your phone. Yeah, that was what I meant to say. This is going to be the final thought. I always say they're going to be shorter, but this one is going to be shorter. The final thought, stay prepared, stay aware, and maybe, just maybe, plug your phone in before leaving the house. It's not dramatic, but it's surprisingly effective. This is all part of what we're talking about. Do not take this lightly. I made jest of some situations, but this mindset is what is going to keep you alive. All right, y'all. Watch your six and peace out.